In this lesson we're going to take another look at all the collision profiles, because I've been playing around with the game and just play testing a little, and I've noticed that there is some things wrong with the collision, because for starters the ICBM is just going straight through the landscape. Let's go ahead. First of all, I'll show you what the collision profile is again. So I'm going to open the ICBM and select the warhead and scroll down to the collision. And the collision preset is currently set to pawn. And as you can see, everything here is configured to either block, overlap, or ignore with other types of objects. Now the problem is, as you can imagine, if a pawn blocks another pawn, it will never overlap. So we've been having problems due to this, and I've decided to just create special collision presets for every kind of object we have. So I'm going to open the project settings and move to the collision settings. You may remember when we created our mouse plane, we created an object channel and the preset, and we're going to repeat those steps for all the objects we have, and this time we're going to ignore the trace channels because we don't want to specifically trace for these objects, just collide them. So let's go ahead and create our first channel, which will be the building channel, and the default response will be simply ignore all the other objects. And then create our next object channel, which will be the ICBM. Again, ignore everything. Next channel, the ABM. Ignore everything. Then landscape. And ignore everything. The specific order over here doesn't really matter, so that's not a problem. Well, let's go ahead and start to create our collision presets for the building, and let's name it building, and the collision will be set to query only, no physics stuff. The object type will be set to building, and it's going to ignore everything and block the visibility and the camera, because it's not, a building is not transparent, and building will only overlap with an ICBM, and we don't care if it overlaps with a building, we don't care if it overlaps with the ABM, and we don't care if it overlaps with the landscape, so just leave those to ignore. Right, next one, the ICBM. So let's name it ICBM, set it to query only, the object type will be ICBM, and I see I forgot to add a description to the building preset. I'm going to edit that. Describes the way ICBM interacts with the world. And ignore everything except visibility and camera. And we want ICBMs to overlap with buildings, with ABMs, and with the landscape. I'm just going to select all, Control A and Control C to copy. And I'm going to edit this back in the building. A building interacts with the world. So it's a good practice to set descriptions. The next one will be the ABM. Collision to query only, object type to ABM, Control A, Control V, and ABM. Ignore everything, block visibility and camera, and we want the ABM to overlap with the ICBM, with other ABMs, and with the landscape. So accept. And now it appears I cannot scroll down, which is seems to be a little error in the editor. And when I reopen the collision, I do get the scroll bar. So the next one will be the landscape. So new landscape, collision enabled, query only, object type landscape, and the description would be pasted and then just edited. The landscape this time, ignore everything except visibility and the camera, and overlap with the ICBM and the ABM. And we can ignore overlapping with other landscapes if we would ever create one. We don't need two landscapes anyway, so, and just ignore the buildings and accept. So with this done, we can go back to our editor, and let's start by assigning all the new presets we have created to their corresponding objects. So go to collision on the landscape, the preset would be set to landscape, and we need to enable overlap events. So save, then edit the ICBM, click the warhead and the base with control to select them both, collision preset set to ICBM, make sure overlap events are enabled, compile and save, and go back to the content browser and let's edit the factory. So select all the chimneys and the base and scroll down, collision preset to building, oh, misclick, building, make sure overlap events are enabled, compile, save, and go to the ABM installation, double click, select both the meshes, scroll down, ABM, make sure overlap events are enabled, compile, save, and lastly the ABM installation, select turret, the barrel and the base, deselect the missile spawn, collision preset to building, and make sure overlap events are enabled. So now we can test this new configuration out, and I'm just going to drag some ICBMs into the world, place them at position so you can see what's going on. Control W to duplicate, and well, let's play. So that all appears to be working fine. Going to move them a little higher, like this, so we can first see what happens with the leftmost one. So that's despawning, and that's despawning. I'm going to eject real quick. It's just hitting behind the factory, so that's why the factory is not getting damaged. It's unfortunate. Let's see. Just place them on the line with the spawn. Should be good. Play again. Yes, now it's all working. So you may have noticed that our ABM installation is not getting destroyed. So I suggest you open the ABM installation and make sure that when this receives damage, it's getting destroyed. So that's your job for now, and I'll see you in a minute and show you how it's done.